On July 19th, 1977, the world teacher, the Christ Maitreya, head of the spiritual hierarchy, emerged from his ancient retreat and is now in the modern world. With his disciples, the masters of the wisdom, he will inaugurate the new age of synthesis and brotherhood.
Good morning and welcome to our World Teacher programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM, presented by Teresa on behalf of Share International New Zealand. Today we have part 2 of Benjamin Creme's public lecture in New York City in 2001. If you visit YouTube, type Share International into the search box and then select Playlists, you'll find a selection of interviews and lectures featuring Mr. Creme. They're educational, entertaining and well worth a watch. Benjamin Creme begins his discourse with insights into the nature of Jesus and the other masters, and then goes on to describe humanity's origin and constitution.
Jesus said, "I am the way, no one comes to the Father, I'm the way, the light and the truth. No one comes to the Father but through me." I absolutely agree, but you have to understand what it means. Jesus said, "I am the way, the light, and the truth," because indeed he is the way, the light, and the truth. Does that mean I am a follower of Jesus? I would love to be a follower of Jesus. On the other hand, if I go into a Christian church, it's not because I'm a follower of Jesus. It's partly out of, I need somewhere to sit down, and they leave the doors open and you can go in and sit down. And the energies in most churches are wonderful, usually second ray and sixth ray, and usually quite often very high in a good church. And I like to absorb and experience these energies. I know that the Master Jesus is a great master, one of the greatest masters in our planetary hierarchy, close associate of Maitreya, works daily, hourly, moment to moment with Maitreya, deeply concerned with the well-being of humanity, filled with a love for humanity. That, to me, is the real Jesus. The real Jesus is that one who has that all-embracing love for humanity, who doesn't break up humanity and say, that one is no good, he's just speaking for the Antichrist, and this one is wrong because he doesn't believe our Bible. He doesn't believe that Jesus is the one. The one what? The one God? You ask Jesus, when you see Jesus, you will have the opportunity to ask him, "Are you God?" And he will say, "No." I don't know what else he would say. Don't be silly, or I don't think he would say that, but he might think it, Don't be so naive, don't be so simple. I'm not God. He is not God, except in the way that we are all God. The difference between you and Jesus, or me and Jesus, is that he has evolved to a point where he expresses that divinity in everything that he does and feels and thinks. And we don't. We only do it a tiny little fraction of that divinity. But the same divinity, there's only one divinity. It's not separable. It's just one indivisible divinity which we all share. Every human being of whatever color, whatever background, rich or poor, from the developed world or the third world, everyone is that same divinity, has that same divinity. It's the same divinity that is in Maitreya, the Christ, or in Jesus when he was the Christ, or today when he is no longer the Christ. But who is happy to work daily, hourly, moment to moment with the Christ. whose loyalty is to humanity and to the Christ. I feel that people who ask questions like this, they don't know who they're talking about. They don't know Jesus. They have no idea what Jesus is like. They don't experience it. It's just a word. And to him they assign all sorts of capacities for division, like the Christians against everybody else. Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus gave the Quran through Muhammad. He doesn't make the division between the Muslims and the Christians that the Christians do and that the Muslims do. How could he and give the Quran? You see, life is very different, and the people who really create the strength of that life, the thought of that life, the uplifting ideas of that life, people like Jesus, like the Buddha, like Muhammad and so on, are very different from ordinary human beings. In many ways, they are like ordinary human beings, but they don't have any faults. They're like men without faults. And the masters, you will find, are like ordinary, simple men, but without a fault in their makeup, filled with the love of God, filled with the wisdom of the ages, an ability to know, experience, tune into, and find identity with all the ills of humanity, all the pain, all the suffering of humanity. They're not just names. They are beings who experience, who know and who experience life at the highest possible level, and who are willing and ready to share that with humanity. That's really the nature of Jesus and the other masters. Jesus is the way, the light, and the truth. No one can know the Father except through him. What does it mean? It means that if you don't believe in Jesus, because belief is nothing, it's nothing at all. You can say, I believe in Jesus, I believe in Muhammad, I believe in Krishna. It doesn't mean anything at all unless it changes you. Belief in something or someone of that level means identity with. You live the life which is Jesus. You live the life which is Krishna or Muhammad. It's the quality of the life which you live that makes you a follower of Jesus or Krishna or the Buddha or whomever. It's not believing, because believing by itself does nothing. You have to experience. And when you experience, you can demonstrate. And it's in the demonstration that people see the follower. He says, yeah, he's a worthy follower of the Buddha. He's a worthy follower of Christ or Jesus or Muhammad. Because he demonstrates the quality of life, the love, the intelligence, the will, the compassion of these great beings. When Jesus said, I am the light and truth, and no man can know the Father except through me, he meant he was speaking as the Christ, not as Jesus, but as the Christ, who is the Hierophant, the initiator at the first two of these 5 initiations, which, as I said, make you a master. They cover the last few lives of the evolutionary cycle on this planet, and at the first 2, the Christ himself, the Lord Maitreya, is the Hierophant. He gives you the initiation. It's more than that. You become initiate yourself, but there are certain rituals when you are ready for the energy from the rod of initiation, which applies these to the chakras. And at the first 2, the Christ, the Lord Maitreya, performs this ritual. And so no one who has not come before the Christ, through Jesus, Jesus is talking now as the Christ, overshadowed by Maitreya. It is Maitreya who is talking. No man can come to the Father, that is, our Father in heaven is the Sanat Kumara, the Lord of the world on Shambhala, who is the Hierophant at the third and the fourth and the fifth initiation. No one can reach that stage, take those higher initiations, who has not beforehand come before the Christ at the first two initiations. That's what it means. Now, the people around him didn't understand. 3 at least of the disciples understood what he meant. But it is possible to talk about that, and it is possible also to see that as a fundamentalist Christian obviously sees that. He says, well, what is he talking about? No man can come to the Father except through me, Jesus. So Jesus is the top one. He's God. Jesus isn't God. Maitreya isn't God. And Jesus looks up to Maitreya as his master. And he's not God. You can look up to the planetary logos, and that is our nearest equivalent of God. But what about the solar system? At the center of our solar system, in the sun, is a God. The solar system is an entity. It's ensouled by a great, great cosmic being who we call God. But that's only a part of it, because we are in a galaxy. And at the center of the galaxy, which is made up of countless thousands of suns with their systems, their planets, is a being. At the center of that galaxy is a being who is God. A greater God than our solar God. He's called the one about whom naught may be said. You can't say anything about him. How could you say something about such a God? And that's only our galaxy. There are millions of galaxies. Well, where do you stop? You know, God goes on and on. There isn't anywhere where God is not. In you, around you, between you, in everybody else, you cannot touch anything. You cannot see any space. You cannot look up to the sky or look down into the earth and say there's no God here. There is nowhere where God is not. He's inside you. He's a principle. He's the light in you, which is that which begins to glow. It's the same life, the same God, because life and light are the same. They're identical. And that's only about this system. What about another system at the center of the galaxy and another galaxy beyond? You cannot even imagine if it's higher or lower. It's endless. It's infinity. That's what we have to get into our minds. Infinity is the reality. There is no end to it. I know people said, I don't want to come back into incarnation. I've had enough. You know, they're tired, they're not well, you know, they've got rheumatics and arthritis and, you know, in real pain and suffering for years. I don't want to come back. It's the last thing I want. I've had enough. I want to rest. When I die, I want that to be the end. I don't want to do this all over again. They forget they have a new body, it's springy, it's full of life, it's a child and it grows up and it's young while it's young and so on. They forget that it's not the same old body. It's the same being, but not in the same old body. You need a new body, that's all you do. It's like a car. When it wears out, you get another one, don't you? Even before it gets out, you know. You know, you want people to say you've got the very latest. No, you don't wait for that, but you have to wait for the body to say, no, a bit longer, please, a bit longer. I know it's hopeless, it's useless, it's full of rheumatics, and I can hardly walk across the room, but please, God, please don't take me yet, you know. It's funny how we hate to go. We love the car to go and get another one, brighter one, shinier one with more gadgets and things. And one that the neighbours can look at and say, looking up, we better get one too.
You're listening to the World Teacher Programme on Wellington's Access Radio 106.1 FM. Benjamin Creme continues.
The vast majority of humanity are astrally polarized. Over 90% of humanity are polarized on the astral plane. In other words, the consciousness is still that of the Atlantean root race, which was a race which lasted before the Aryan race. We are part of the Aryan race, nothing to do with Mr. Hitler's idea of Aryan, but we are part of that Aryan race which began about 100,000 years ago. We, that is, Europeans and Americans, are the fifth sub-race of that Aryan race. And the race before that, the Atlantean race, lasted for 12 million years, for a very long time. There were a great many subdivisions in that race. And before that was the Lemurian race, which lasted 6 million years. So some people have gone through the Lemurian race from early animal man, and the aim of the Lemurian race was to perfect the physical vehicle. We have a physical vehicle, an astral or emotional vehicle, and a mental vehicle. These are the three vehicles for the soul to use when in incarnation. We tend to identify with the physical vehicle and the astral vehicle and the mental vehicle, but they are not us. The soul is us, and these are simply vehicles for the use of the soul when in incarnation. However, so long and so connected are we with the physical plane and the emotional or astral plane and the mental plane that we tend to think that that's the sum total. That's where we have consciousness. Now, the polarization is the seat of your consciousness. Early animal man, working through the Lemurian age, had the job of perfecting the physical vehicle. He did it very well, and that, at the end of the age, early humanity, as it was, had a very solid physical vehicle, strong, well-developed, well-coordinated, and so on. And then people began to incarnate, rather more advanced people, from what's called the moon chain. The moon was populated before the earth was populated, and the cream of humanity came from the moon chain into the Lemurian and early Atlantean races. For instance, someone like the Buddha came from the moon, and the very earliest and most advanced types came from the moon chain into the earth chain. And this, now the moon is extinct, it's a dead planet, but it still has astral, emotional life there. But as far as its evolution is concerned, it ceased to be a planet. The aim of Atlantean man was to perfect the astral emotional vehicle. It took 12 million years, 12.5 million years to do so, and did so well that it's still the most powerful vehicle that humanity has. The astral emotional vehicle is so powerful that the vast majority of people, even of the Aryan race, are still Atlantean in consciousness. The astral plane is the seat of their consciousness, and a tiny proportion of that mass of people are polarized on the mental plane. For them, the mental plane is the seat of consciousness. That doesn't mean to say that people who are astrally polarized can't think. Such people make computers, use computers, develop all sorts of weird and wonderful gadgets. Be that as it may, the vast majority are still Atlantean in consciousness. And that proceeds up until the person is definitely 1 foot in the hierarchy of masters. In other words, he is to a tiny degree initiate. There are 5 great expansions of consciousness called initiation, the planetary initiations, which cover the last few lives of the evolutionary process. When I say the last few, that few might be quite a number, but it's still the last few compared with the hundreds of thousands that preceded it. And when the disciple has come, or rather the aspirant has come to a point where he is able to take the first initiation, the first expansion of consciousness, which pertains to the control of the physical elemental which makes up your physical body. This solid physical body is the result of the activity of tiny angelic or devic lives, tiny, minuscule little devic lives whose activity make up the planes, the physical body, the astral body, and the mental body. Even the mental body, so-called, is a body, and it's made up of tiny mental elementals. And mental elementals, it's interesting. It's interesting how that came to be. But so it is. Nature works wonders. And the mental elementals are the high point in the elemental forces which make up the human body, the physical body, the astral emotional body, and the mental body. All of these are the work of tiny devic or angelic evolutions. And the angelic or devic evolution is a parallel evolution to the human and is massive. I mean, billions upon billions of different, some tiny, all the way up to the human. They are coming to the human. They are parallel to the human, and they're at the human stage, and they go on above, and they become eventually archangels who are like masters only on the devic or angelic evolution. It's vast, huge, and there are masters whose sole activity is working with, dealing with the angelic evolution. The human evolution has 63 masters in connection with it, of whom the highest is the Christ, the world teacher, the Lord Maitreya. He is one of 3 lords, as they're called, the great lords, the lords of compassion. And then the masters of wisdom are 60, kept at the number 60, as far as the human evolution is concerned. I mean, many more masters become masters, but they go on to other work, they leave this planet, they go on to higher planets, or as I said earlier, out of the system altogether. There are 7 ashrams in the hierarchy of the spiritual hierarchy of our planet, and these are divided into 7. So there are seven major ashrams headed by a major master, 6th degree initiate called a Chohan, and from these stem 6 other ashrams with masters on most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And everyone, when they become a disciple, is a disciple of a particular ashram, depending on the ray or quality of the energy governing their soul. So if you're a first-ray soul, you go to a first-ray ashram. If you're a second-ray soul, to a second-ray ashram, and so on. And Maitreya is the head of all the masters, the master of all the masters. And they look up to him as a teacher, as we would look up to the masters as teachers.
And that's it for today. Tune in to our next World Teacher programme on Saturday the 15th of June at our usual time of 10 a.m. for the final part of Benjamin Creme's New York lecture, when he'll be answering questions about the Antichrist and how the term is misunderstood, Sai Baba and his relationship to Maitreya, and then finish with a description of transmission meditation. If you would like more information on the emergence of the World Teacher and the Masters of Wisdom, we can highly recommend two of Benjamin Creme's recent books, The World Teacher for All Humanity and its companion, The Awakening of Humanity. They are available to read online or download free from the share-international.org website. However, if you prefer the paperback editions, you can order by phoning 04-234 1133 or write to P.O. Box 9576 Wellington. We can also post or email our free of charge monthly newsletter, which contains a small selection of articles from the Share International magazine. That number again is 04-234 1133. You have been listening to Teresa on behalf of Share International New Zealand. You can listen again to this podcast and previous ones by visiting our new library at shareinternationalnewzealand.wordpress.com and click on the radio tab.